So today we're going to move on with Unit 9.2. Okay, we're still working with parabolas, but today instead of actually sketching them, we're going to be working on convert quadratic functions. Convert quadratic functions from standard form to vertex form. Okay, convert quadratic functions from standard form to vertex form. So, first thing we need to go over is, what is a quadratic function? Does anyone know what kind of a shape does a quadratic function make if you sketch it? A linear function makes a line. Does anyone know what kind of shape does a quadratic function give you? What did we work on yesterday?
Parabola.
Parabolas. Okay, so quadratic functions are just parabola equations. Okay, so if it's helpful to you, you can just write parabola equations so you know exactly kind of what we're talking about. So convert parabola equations from standard form to vertex form. Any idea what's another word or another name for vertex form? Descriptive form. Right? It has a couple of different names. The reason that we write vertex form is because a lot of times on standardized testing, they call it vertex form. We like to call it descriptive form because it tells you a little bit more about what you're doing. Okay, so first thing you need to know is, what does standard form look like? So standard form. Anyone remember what does standard form look like? Any ideas? What does standard form look like? Standard form is when you have an equation written in y equals ax squared plus bx plus c form. Okay, that's the form that we don't necessarily like because you have to use a formula to find the vertex and then plug back in, or excuse me, use a formula to find line of symmetry and then plug back in to find vertex. We typically don't like that form as much because it's a lot of work. There's also vertex form, which we've called up until now descriptive form. And vertex form is when you have a parabola written in y equals a times x minus h squared plus k form. And that's called descriptive form or vertex form because you can literally read the vertex right out of the equation. So there are some steps to doing this. There are 6 different steps. I know you guys aren't going to like writing them all down right now, but you're not really going to have to use every single step once we do these equations. Okay, but we do need to write them down to start with. Okay, so your steps. Step 1 is to move the c value. So move c to other side. And these will hopefully make a lot more sense once we get into some actual examples. So step 1 is move c to other side. Step 2 is to factor out the a value. Factor out the a value. Step 3 is complete the square. Basically what we're doing today, we have done before, we just didn't use it for this reason when we did it in first semester. Okay, but you've done this thing called complete the square. Step 4 is you need to add to both sides. Add to both sides. And we're going to write ourselves a little note here. Multiply if needed. Okay, multiply if needed. And you'll see, hopefully, when it is and when it is not needed for you to multiply. Step 5 is to write as a binomial square. And the last step, step 6, is to bring c back. Okay, so bring the c number back. So move the c value to the other side, factor out the a value, complete the square, add to both sides, and remember to multiply if needed. Write as a binomial square, and then finally bring the c back. So first one we're going to do for this is example number 1. There are 5 examples today. So y equals x squared plus 6x minus 12. Y equals x squared plus 6x minus 12. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to move the c value. What is the c value in this equation? Negative 12. So to move the negative 12, you're going to add 12 to both sides. I don't really expect that you're going to show that step, but if you did, that's fine. Okay, so you'd get y plus 12 equals x squared plus 6x. Okay, my next step was to factor out the a value. What is the a value in this equation? A 1. So do you really think you're going to have to factor anything out? No. Okay, this one you get to skip that step. Then we want to complete the square. If you remember correctly, complete the square basically just means we need to fill in that space. Okay? So to complete the square, does anyone remember the formula for complete the square? Take the middle number, or the b value, middle number, divided by 2, and square it.
I got you.
Okay, so we're going to take that b value. So in this case, we're going to take 6, divide it by 2, and square it. And remember, you want to try to show this work, and you'll see why in just a second. So 3 squared means we're going to add what to this side? A 9. If you add 9 to one side, what do you think you add to the other side? 9. Okay? We want to be equal to both sides of our equation. It's like if I gave extra credit to one side of the class, I should probably give it to the other side to be fair. Okay? Then you're actually going to add these together, so we get y plus 21 equals, I'm going to rewrite this as a perfect square binomial. Okay? Basically that means factor and rewrite it. What is this completely factored? X squared plus 6x plus 9. It's a little work if you want to do the factoring. So that's why if you write your work here, this is really just x plus 3 squared. But if you showed your work, all you have to do is take that number and plug it into the parentheses. Okay, that's why you want to show your work here, because then you don't have to factor. It's one less thing that you actually have to do. Then this is written as a binomial square. So finally just bring your c value back. So what's the c value I'm going to bring back? 21. So you're going to subtract 21. This goes at the end. Okay, you're not subtracting inside the parentheses at all. So your equation is going to be y equals x plus 3 squared minus 21. And does this look like a nice descriptive form parabola equation? Yeah, those are the ones we like. Okay, so basically, the reason we're doing this is yesterday I showed you you could use a formula and you could still find line of symmetry and vertex for this. That's fine. But we're going to be moving on to some other shapes starting on block day. And for the other shapes, there's not just an equation that you can use for that. So you basically have to get the other shapes into what's called descriptive form. And you're going to do that by the same thing. We're going to be completing the square more. But it's easiest to show you how to do it first with parabolas. Okay, so that's basically the reason we're doing this. Question?
What if for the first step, the a value doesn't factor out? Like you can't.
I'll show you one. They're always going to be able to. Yeah, it'll work. It's not like you're going to have something like 4x squared minus 5x. They're going to be something that can completely factor. I won't give you ones that are non-factorable. Okay, so that's your answer. Excuse me. Let's try another one. Number 2. Okay, for example number 2, I would like you to change to descriptive form y equals x squared minus 12x plus 4. Y equals y equals x squared minus 12x plus 4. First thing you want to do is move your c value. If you want to show the step, you can, but it's not absolutely mandatory. So that'd be y minus 4 equals x squared minus 12x. Is there any a value to factor out? It's just a 1, so you don't have to factor anything. So we're going to create that space. complete the square, so take the middle number, divide it by 2 and square it. Make sure that you take that sign as well. So if your middle value is negative, you have to take the negative with it. So it's going to be negative 6 squared. What are you going to add to both sides of the equation? Plus 36. You add it to one side, you also have to add it to the left side. So this is going to give you y plus 32 equals, how would I write that as a binomial squared? What's being squared inside of the x? Negative 6. And you can take that right from there if you've shown your work. Okay, that's why it's really nice to show your work on these. So x minus 6, quantity squared. Bring back your c value. Again, it goes at the end, does not get combined with what's inside the parentheses. So y equals x minus 6 squared minus 32. That's your answer. Anyone have questions on how I did that? Sorry, my pen went through my paper, so it looks like I have polka dots everywhere. Okay, let's make it just a little bit more challenging. For number 3, let's try y equals 2x squared minus 4x plus 5. Y equals 2x squared minus 4x plus 5. Now, this one has a different a value. It has an a value of 2. What does that tell you about if you graphed this parabola? It would be fat, skinny, or normal. It'd be skinny, and it would be facing up. That's perfectly fine for it to have a number in front. That's totally fine, right? You're not going to have to worry about any fraction numbers to factor, so don't worry about that. Now, this one, a lot of times when we see a values that are not just 1, you want to factor immediately. That would not be good, because if you factored out a 2, you'd end up with a ugly fraction. We don't want to do that. So the first step you want to take is still moving the c value. So you'd get y minus 5 equals 2x squared minus 4x. Then you want to factor out the a value. So the a value is 2, so we still have y minus 5 equals 2. Left behind would be x squared minus 2x. Now we're going to complete the square. Alright, so again, we're going to take this b value, not the one before it was factored. So you're going to take this middle value, negative 2 divided by 2, and square it. So negative 1 squared. What am I going to add in this parentheses? Negative 1 squared gives you what? Plus 1. But what am I really adding to this entire side of the equation? 2 times 1. So really, to this whole side of the equation, what am I adding? I'm adding 2, because it's really 2 times 1. So to the left side, you have to add 2. So if you took out any a value, you have to multiply it back through before you add it to the left side of the equation. Okay, we do that though because otherwise you'd have to deal with a lot of fractions. So that's why we take out the a value first. Okay, but you do have to remember that you have to multiply these through before you add on the left side. Then we're going to simplify this. So y minus 3 equals, we still have a 2 on the outside. What is this binomial squared? What goes inside of the x? Close. Negative 1, right. So this sign does have to come with it. So make sure you take that sign with it. Then finally move back your c value. So y equals 2 times x minus 1 squared plus 3. And is it okay to have a number out front? That's fine. That just tells you it's going to be a skinny parabola. That's it. Okay, that's the answer that we're looking for here. Anyone have questions on how I did that?
Did you plug in the 2?
This 2? Do I multiply it back through? No, you don't multiply it back through. You leave it factored out. Leave it GCF'd. But when you're adding to the other side, you do multiply it. So 2 times 1 is how I got the 2 added on this side. So you want to treat these as like separate sides of the equation. Does that make sense? Okay, try another one. I have 2 more, then you'll be done. For number 4, I want you to rewrite in descriptive form or vertex form y equals 5x squared minus 20x plus 10. Y equals 5x squared minus 20x plus 10. So anyone remember what's the first thing you should do here? Move over the c value, so move the 10. So y minus 10 equals 5x squared minus 20x. Then take out the a value, so y minus 10 equals, factor out a 5. Left behind would be x squared minus 4x, and you're going to leave that space because this is where we're going to complete the square. So remember, you're going to take the factored one, take that middle value divided by 2 and square it. So inside the parentheses, what am I going to add? Positive 4. What do I add to the left side of the equation, though? 20. Okay, you're going to do 5 times 4. So on the left side of the equation, you're actually adding plus 20. These are two separate sides of the equation. So if you add this together, we get y plus 10 equals, you still have a 5 on the outside. How would you write that as a binomial squared? X minus 2. And then your last step is to bring back this 10 back to the end. So y equals 5 times x minus 2 squared. Subtract the 10 at the end, minus 10. That's the equation written in descriptive form, descriptive or vertex form. So technically, if you wanted to check your answers, you could find the vertex here and find the vertex of this one, and they would end up being the same. It's just a lot easier if you find it from the descriptive form parabola. I know it's warm, I know you guys are sleepy, but we still have one more. Yes? I moved it from over here. So to move it to the other side, you'd have to subtract 10. Okay, last one, and I promise we'll be done. For number 5, I'm going to change your instructions just barely. Okay, I want you to rewrite in vertex form. So rewrite in vertex form, and then actually state the vertex. So not only are you rewriting it, but then I actually want you to answer a question about what you've rewritten. So rewrite in vertex form and state the vertex. Gotcha. Y equals negative 4x squared plus 16x minus 7. I want you guys to try that one on your own and see if we can come up with the same thing. This one's a little bit trickier, but you should be okay on it. Okay, so first thing you should have done is move the 7. So we should have gotten y plus 7 equals negative 4x squared plus 16x. Then factor out the negative 4, so y plus 7 equals, take out the negative as well as the 4, so negative 4 left behind would be x squared. If you factor out a negative, positive divided by negative gives you minus 4x. Then leave the space where you're going to complete the square. Take the negative 4, divide it by 2 and square it. You're going to get negative 2 quantity squared. So inside the parentheses on the right side, you're going to add 4. To the left side, negative 4 times 4 gives you negative 16. So remember, these are two separate sides. So you should get y minus 9 equals negative 4. Left behind should be x minus 2 quantity squared. And it's perfectly fine to have a negative out front. This just tells you that it's going to be facing down. Okay, so the parabola would open downwards instead of up. And then finally bring back your 9. So you've got y equals negative 4, x minus 2 quantity squared. If you bring back the 9, it becomes a plus 9 at the end. And then this one's not quite done. I'm actually asking you to find the vertex. So the vertex here, change it, keep it. Vertex would be 2, 9. That's your answers. So this one actually had 2 different parts. Anyone have questions on how I did that? Okay, homework is going to be worksheet 2. You're doing numbers 1 through 15. Okay, worksheet 2, numbers 1 through 15 in the packet that I gave you yesterday. If you don't have a packet, make sure you get one from me. And that's it.
It was like a